All right, with the November elections rapidly approaching, a recent Harvard-Harris poll has revealed that the #1 issue for Americans is immigration. They see that as the single biggest issue facing our country. And given the Biden administration's mismanagement at the border, only 36% of registered voters approve of President Biden's performance on this issue. House Republicans passed H.R. 2 last year. We've talked about it a lot on this program. And, it addresses the border crisis. But Senate Leader Chuck Schumer, he refuses to even bring it up in the Senate. Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is Congressman Andy Biggs. He serves on the House Judiciary Committee as well as the Oversight and Accountability Committee. He represents the 5th District in Arizona. Congressman Biggs, always great to see you, my friend. Welcome to Washington Watch.
It's always good to see you, Jody. Boy, how we miss you in Congress.
Well, thank you very much. And I tell you, I pray for you guys a lot. You got your plates full. All right, let's start with this poll that I just referenced. Polls continue to indicate that the public is absolutely frustrated with the Biden border crisis. Is there any way, Congressman Biggs, that this could somehow create some leverage to get some change? Is this something that we have that we can actually use?
Well, so in a broader sense, the electorate is rising up. They, brush fires of freedom with regard to this issue are being lit all over the country. They know, people know. I would say it's probably an 80-85% issue right now to secure our border. You can't get much better than that. That is a great issue for a broad political issue. But more importantly, you mentioned H.R. 2. So we have H.R. 2, which we've tried to leverage to get on spending bills and everything else, but we've been thwarted as we've tried to do that. But just think about it. This is a lawless administration, particularly where it comes to the border. And so passing more laws aren't really going to work. The best leverage we ever had were the spending bills. And you know how this works. The founding fathers gave us the control of the purse strings. We should have been using that to leverage securing the border. But our leadership didn't want to go that way, and many of my colleagues didn't want to go that way either. But that was the answer, and so we're kind of stuck right now in this really difficult spot because the sheer numbers are actually higher than are being reported even by the Biden administration.
Yeah, that really complicates things the way you describe it, but I think it's important for our viewers and listeners to have an understanding of how the process works. And you just can't miss opportunities. I know there's going to be more spending discussions come as the debate gets underway for next year's budget, but got to take advantage when it comes your way. Well, earlier this week, there was a White House press briefing, and there the National Security Advisor, John Kirby, he said that there's nothing the president can do about the border. Nothing he can do about the border crisis. I want to play this clip and then get your reaction to it.
President absolutely believes that along that border we do have significant national security concerns that have to be met. But you said something really good in your question that I loved, that while these concerns are going on, the bill languishes. So what's needed? It's not anything more from the president. What's needed is for Speaker Johnson to do his job and get that thing on the floor. Let's get it voted on.
Wow, your reaction.
Well, first of all, if he's talking about H.R. 2, if he's talking H.R. 2, that's been sitting in the Senate for a year, by the way. So his own party, they're not moving it because Joe Biden didn't want it. I have here, this is a list of 13 executive orders that the president issued of about 80 that basically emasculated the border policies of Donald Trump that had brought the border under its most secure situation in probably 50 years. And he put these in place. Joe Biden did. He could go back and rescind those orders. Title 8 remains in place. There is a statute specifically in Title 8 that says if there's an emergency on the border or the president deems it an emergency, it doesn't even require Congress to act. If he thinks that there's an emergency on the border, he can take actions to secure and control and close that border. He needs nothing else. Title 8 didn't change. Nobody's changed Title 8. What's changed is their decision, Joe Biden's decision, not to actually implement the law under Title VIII, which is the law that governs border security. Shame on them for gaslighting the American people. Shame on them for lying, because it lies directly in his control and Secretary Mayorkas's control to actually bring the border into a secure situation.
Yeah, we continue to see clips like this, and it is maddening because it's nothing but smoke and mirrors, deflection, and misinformation, lies, as you bring up. Now, you and I, we have done a lot. You are one of the leaders on border issues. I've been on a CODEL with you to the border. We've been on trips down there several times. And you also serve on the Judiciary Committee, which just yesterday announced an investigation into a massive bungling, if you will, by Homeland Security Department. And when I saw this, I was infuriated. Tell us what happened.
Well, it just depends on which bungle you're talking about, because
the one with the 200,000 cases, the cases that they dismissed.
Oh yeah. So okay. So they've wrongfully dismissed cases, but I mean, Jody, this is a broader systemic problem within DHS that Mayorkas is not actually enforcing the law. So you have this aspect over here where you have wrongful dismissals, and so we're looking at that, and Chairman Jordan is all over that. But we're also looking at reports that I've received from other intel and whistleblowers that have indicated that they are actually, when I say that, DHS is actually providing these parole documents to far greater number than the Biden administration is reporting. You start looking at all of that, and I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they bungled the thing that we're looking into that was announced yesterday, but we have to look at every aspect of what they've done, because they are out of control. We are less secure as a nation under this Homeland Security Secretary than we have been in I don't know how long. I mean, it's just hard to conceive of it. And the Biden administration is all in for that. So yeah, Jody, we're looking at that, but there's a whole cross section of things that I'm involved in, Jim Jordan's involved in, and the Judiciary Committee and Oversight Committees are also, you were on the Oversight Committee, so you know this. We are working on a broad spectrum dealing with DHS and their failures.
Yeah, it is just stunning to me. I mean, they failed to summons 200,000 cases, and as you mentioned, they're just dismissed. So now we have it is unbelievable to me. And on top of that, yet another layer. It appears likely that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is simply going to dismiss the House's impeachment of Security Secretary Mayorkas without even having a trial. What do you think of that?
Well, that is an option that he has, and we hope that he doesn't. We'll be delivering those for papers next week. The resolution will be formally read. Take about 30 to 45 minutes to read the charges against Secretary Mayorkas that came out of the House. He's got other options. He's got a whole plethora of options, and I suspect he's going to try to deflect and diffuse and dismiss, as you say. I hope he doesn't. Jody, because we have got so many things to bring forward to the American people and to the Senate that I think that if there were open minds in the Senate, they would look at it and they say, yeah, Secretary Mayorkas, you need to be removed from office. And that would be kind of a once in the history of the nation type of thing. But good grief, what he is doing is actually changing this nation. It'll take generations to fix what he has done wrong.
Yeah, and it's the arrogance with which it seems to all be taking place as well. Now, you mentioned that Schumer has this option on his plate. Can you explain to the American people why he has this option when the House puts forth an impeachment like this and it goes to the Senate? Why does he have the authority just to overlook it and say we're not going to address this?
Well, the Constitution gives the House, we do what's been analogous to a grand jury indictment. So we've effectively indicted him by impeaching Mayorkas. The next question is the trial on that. So because he's not the executive, normally you would have the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court would be called in to actually preside over that. But since he is a cabinet official, and he's not going to get that. He's going to get some other officer. And Chuck Schumer, as the majority leader, controls the timing, the mechanism of that. And the Constitution doesn't say it has to be done immediately. It doesn't give any other parameters to say that, except for that is solely in the jurisdiction of the Senate. And since it's solely in the jurisdiction of the Senate, even though historically and traditionally you've never had a trial set aside or dismissal of a sitting member of the executive branch, you've never had that go away. If he can get the votes, he can actually dismiss, table it. He could give it to a different committee instead of bringing it to the entire body of the Senate. I mean, he's got a whole host of options that he can take. And that's what even that slim majority that he enjoys in the Senate, which is very narrow, kind of like what we have in the House, very narrow. It means that he has the power to run the place and on any way he can get his votes. And that's the problem that we face, Jody.
Well, and again, I think that's very important for the American people to understand that, because many are no doubt thinking, well, the House impeached him. Doesn't the Senate have to move forward? But it's true that the power of the majority leader over there is pretty significant. Now, let's shift if we can. Coming next week, Congress is going to return to Washington. A lot of things on the table. What do you anticipate being the primary focus, or maybe a couple of primary focuses?
Well, the first thing is I've been told that we're going to have a floor vote on the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act reformation. So I introduced a legislation bipartisan bicameral. The speaker kind of kiboshed that, and now I was on a task force. We produced another bill. It is a base bill, and my understanding is that base bill will probably be the one that's considered, and then from there we will get an opportunity to bring on amendments. What has to happen, Jody, is we have to get a vote on warrant requirements on FISA. You've seen it, the abuse by the FBI. Speaking of hundreds of thousands, the FBI has abused FISA hundreds of thousands of times, even millions of times, to surveil American citizens without probable cause. And so we reformed that, and that's the bill that they killed. And so now we're trying to rehabilitate this other bill with amendments. So that should be one of the things that goes next week is FISA with amendment process. The other thing is I'm told that there's going to be significant movement. I don't know how real it is on this Ukraine funding package. Nobody really knows what's in this ostensible Ukraine funding package. We don't know how much it is, where it's going, what limitations are put on there. We don't know very much about that at all. But that will be another one of the main items that's going to come forward, I would think, next week or the week after.
Well, we're certainly going to be keeping a pulse on all of it. Before I let you go, I had Congressman Ralph Norman on with me yesterday, and I'd love to get your thoughts on one of the issues that we talked about. And this coming out of the Biden's Justice Department, where they're targeting some pro-life Christians being prosecuted for simply praying and singing hymns in front of an abortion clinic in Tennessee a few years ago. What's your thoughts on this? Where is this Justice Department taking us?
Well, it's another example of weaponization. This is a Bill Clinton era law called the FACE Act, and it was to allow access to abortion clinics. Supposedly, you couldn't protest and hinder access anywhere. But here's the deal: the FACE Act it requires intentional, violence or vandalism, those types of things. And you have people who are peacefully praying and singing hymns. This Justice Department under Merrick Garland and Joe Biden has become so weaponized. They are so anti-Christian, and they're anti-religion in and of itself, but they're certainly anti-Christian. I mean, the transgender day, if that did not blow your mind, then you just weren't paying attention, because that did not have to happen the way that the Biden administration took it. And so it was one more indication, along with these poor people who are facing jail time now because of a prosecution under the FACE Act. It's shameful. It is shameful that you're seeing religious persecution in the United States of America. And I would just say to all of your viewers, it's time every religious individual wake up, every person of faith to wake up and say, no more, no more. And Chip Roy's got a great bill. I'm on it. We're trying to repeal the FACE Act. And this would be a great time for the speaker to bring it up next week. And let's rock and roll and let's repeal the FACE Act.
A great point. And that was really going to be my last question. We only have about 30 seconds. Is there a chance for the FACE Act to just get tossed in the dustbin of history?
Yeah, there's a chance. I don't know if we've marked it up. I don't recall marking it. We should probably do a markup in judiciary, roll it to the floor, and get it out of there ASAP. That would be really wonderful, because it could also be used as kind of a legislative intent provision, not just in sentencing, but for the prosecution of these people, and maybe an appeal for these people that are facing the jail time over the FACE Act.
Congressman Andy Biggs, I love your leadership. Always great to have you on the program. Thanks for coming on and sharing with us today.